1 year had passed since I discovered my grandfather's pocket watch, the hidden compartment, the tiny brass key, the letters, Margaret, Thomas, and the promise that had survived more than 60 years. I believed the story was finally over. I was wrong. Life slowly returned to normal. Every morning, I wound the old pocket watch, not because it needed winding, but because it reminded me that time was precious. My son, Noah, had started doing the same. Sometimes, he would hold the watch in both hands, close his eyes, and whisper, "I promise." Even though he was only 9 years old, he already understood that promises mattered. One quiet Saturday morning, my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. "Hello," a calm, elderly voice answered. "Is this Lucas Carter?" "Yes. My name is Edward. I'm a watchmaker. I believe I have something that belongs to you." I frowned. "My grandfather's watch?" "Yes. You left it with me 3 weeks ago." I remembered immediately. The watch had begun losing time. I wanted it cleaned. "Nothing more. I've finished repairing it," Edward said. But while restoring the movement, I discovered something unusual. My heart skipped. "Another secret? I don't understand." There was a long pause. Then he quietly said, "I've repaired pocket watches for almost 50 years. I've never seen anything like this. I think your grandfather wanted someone to find it, but not until now." An hour later, I arrived at Edward's tiny workshop. It smelled of old wood, machine oil, and polished brass. Hundreds of clocks covered the walls. Some ticked softly. Others had long since stopped. Time seemed to live differently inside that room. Edward carefully placed Grandpa's pocket watch on a velvet cloth. "It works perfectly now." He smiled. "But that's not why I asked you to come." He picked up a small magnifying glass, pointing to the inside edge of the watch. "Look closely." At first, I saw nothing. Then, a thin brass ring, hidden beneath the movement, so perfectly crafted, it was almost invisible. Edward gently pressed the ring with a tiny tool. A soft click echoed across the workshop. Another compartment slid open, smaller than the first, hidden even deeper. Inside was a tightly rolled piece of paper. No key, no photograph, just one tiny letter, waiting for someone to find it. My hands began to tremble. Edward carefully handed it to me. I didn't open it. It wasn't mine. The paper had turned dark with age. Across the front, written in Grandpa's unmistakable handwriting, were 8 words. "For Lucas. Only after Margaret is gone." My heart nearly stopped. Margaret had passed away only 6 months earlier, which meant Grandpa had somehow planned this moment, decades before it happened. I slowly broke the seal, completely unaware that this single letter would lead me to the final promise my grandfather had never been able to keep. For several minutes, I simply stared at the letter. My grandfather's handwriting looked exactly as I remembered. Calm, steady, almost as if he had written it yesterday. I carefully unfolded the paper. The first sentence made my heart race. "Dear Lucas, if you're reading this, then Margaret has found her peace, and you've already learned. The story everyone thought was the whole truth, but it wasn't. There is one final promise I could never keep. I'm asking you to finish it for me." I swallowed hard. One final promise? I thought the story had ended. Instead, it was only beginning again. The next paragraph contained only a name, Daniel Brooks. Nothing else. No explanation. No address. No date of birth. Just 2 words. Below the name, Grandpa had written another sentence. "He has been waiting longer than anyone." A chill ran through my body. Who was Daniel Brooks? Another soldier? A family member? Someone Grandpa had known after the war? I had never heard the name before. Not once. Edward, the watchmaker, watched quietly. "You look pale." I handed him the letter. He read only the name, then shook his head. "I've repaired your grandfather's watches for 20 years. He never mentioned Daniel." I turned the page over. At the bottom, a tiny hand-drawn map appeared. It showed a small town, nearly 200 miles away. There was only one mark, an old church, and beneath it, Grandpa had written, October 18th, 5 o'clock, the same date, the same time. As always, my pulse quickened. Everything always led back to October 18th, the day Thomas died, the day Grandpa kept returning, year after year. But now, there was another destination, another person, another promise. That evening, I spread Grandpa's letters across my dining table. I reread every page, looking for the name, Daniel. Nothing. I searched every photograph, every journal, every newspaper clipping. Still nothing. It was as though Daniel Brooks had been erased from history. Noah walked into the room. He noticed the old map. Dad, are you going on another adventure? I smiled. It looks like Grandpa left us one more. Noah grinned. Can I come? I hesitated, then remembered something Grandpa once wrote. Some journeys are meant to be shared. I nodded. Yes, this time, we'll go together. 3 days later, we packed the car. Grandpa's pocket watch rested safely in my jacket pocket. Thomas's watch was in Noah's backpack. As we drove through quiet countryside, the autumn leaves covered the roads in gold and red. Neither of us spoke much. It felt as though we weren't simply taking a trip. We were following a path someone had planned. More than 60 years ago, just before sunset, we reached the small town. It looked untouched by time. The old church stood on a hill. Its bell tower overlooked the valley. As the clock struck 5, an elderly man slowly stepped out of the church. His eyes immediately fell on Grandpa's pocket watch. His hands began to tremble. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said something that made every hair on my arm stand up. Richard, you finally came back. The old man stood silently. His eyes never left the pocket watch. Tears slowly filled them. He whispered again, Richard, you really kept your promise. I froze. My grandfather's name was Richard. The elderly man smiled sadly. I know. I've been waiting for someone from his family for almost 70 years. Noah quietly stepped closer to me. He held Thomas's pocket watch tightly. The old man noticed it immediately. His hands began to shake. There are 2. They stayed together, just like they promised. He slowly introduced himself. My name is Daniel Brooks. The very name, written inside Grandpa's hidden letter. I still couldn't believe it. Did you know my grandfather? Daniel chuckled softly. Knew him? He once saved my life. The 3 of us entered the old church. It was small, quiet. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows. Dust floated gently through the air. Time itself seemed to move more slowly. Daniel led us to an old wooden bench, then reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a faded military photograph. There were 6 young soldiers standing together. I recognized 2 of them immediately. Richard, Thomas. But there were 4 others, faces I had never seen before. Daniel pointed to each one. Thomas, Richard, myself, Michael, Samuel, Peter. He paused. We were known as the 6 brothers. My heart skipped. Grandpa had never mentioned 5 other soldiers. Why? Daniel sighed. Because your grandfather carried a burden he never wanted anyone else to carry. He carefully unfolded another old photograph. This one had burned marks around the edges. Only half of it remained. The day this picture was taken, we didn't know, only 3 of us, would ever return home. Noah looked confused. I thought Thomas was the only one who died. Daniel lowered his head. So did most people. But history didn't tell the whole story. He looked toward the church altar. His voice became quieter. 3 men died that day. Thomas, Michael, Samuel. Peter survived, but disappeared after the war. Richard, he smiled, spent the rest of his life trying to make sure none of them were forgotten. I suddenly understood. The letters, Margaret, the train station, the pocket watch. They were only part of a much larger promise. Daniel slowly reached beneath the bench. There, hidden inside a loose wooden panel, was an old green metal ammunition box. Its paint had almost completely faded. Across the lid, someone had written in white paint, "Open only when all of us are gone." Daniel gently rested his hand on it. I've protected this box for 68 years. Mid-drop, was to wait and hand it to Richard. A tear rolled down his cheek, but Richard never came. He looked into my eyes. So now, I'm giving it to his grandson. With trembling hands, I lifted the heavy metal box onto the bench. The rusty latch creaked open. Inside were dozens of unopened envelopes, military medals, dotex, old maps, and one sealed leather journal. Across its cover were words that made my heart race. The promise we never told anyone. At that moment, I realized everything I thought I knew was only the beginning. For several seconds, none of us spoke. The old leather journal rested quietly inside the metal box. Its cover was cracked. Its pages had turned yellow, yet somehow, it felt more alive than anything else in the room. Daniel looked at me. Richard never opened it. He told me, if he survived, he wanted someone from the next generation to learn the truth. I carefully lifted the journal. It was heavier than I expected. On the inside cover, 6 names had been written by hand. Richard Carter, Thomas Hale, Daniel Brooks, Michael Ross, Samuel Cooper, Peter Grant. Below the names, one sentence had been underlined: brothers by choice, family forever. I slowly turned the first page. The handwriting wasn't Grandpa's. It belonged to Thomas. The journal began only 3 days before their final mission, the 15th of October 1956. If anyone ever reads this, it means at least one of us made it home. If none of us return, then let this journal remind the world that ordinary men can still choose extraordinary kindness. I felt chills run through my body. Thomas hadn't written about war. He hadn't written about fear. Instead, he wrote about friendship, about loyalty, about the families they hoped to return to. Daniel smiled faintly. Thomas always carried that notebook. Every night, he wrote while the rest of us slept. He believed stories deserve to survive. As I continued reading, I noticed something strange. Several pages had been carefully removed, not torn, cut cleanly with a blade, almost as if someone had deliberately hidden part of the story. I looked at Daniel. Did you remove these pages? He slowly shook his head. No, Richard did. He told me. The world wasn't ready. My heartbeat quickened. What wasn't the world ready for? Daniel stared silently through the church window. For nearly a minute, he didn't answer. Finally, he whispered, because Thomas didn't die saving one man. He died saving all of us. The room suddenly felt smaller. I remembered every story Grandpa had told, every letter, every memory. He had always said Thomas gave his life for him, but that wasn't true. Not completely. Daniel reached into the metal box once more. This time, he removed an old military map. Red pencil marks covered its surface. 6 small circles surrounded one large X. He pointed toward the center. This is where everything happened. Then he placed 6 faded military dog tags beside the map. Only 3 had names. The other 3 were completely blank. I frowned. Why are these empty? Daniel closed his eyes. Because officially, they never existed. The mission was classified. The government erased every record. The families were told almost nothing. And Richard spent the rest of his life trying to protect the truth. Noah looked at me quietly. Dad, so Grandpa wasn't hiding a family secret. I looked down at the journal, then at the 6 names. No, I whispered. He was protecting someone else's family. At the very bottom of the metal box, hidden beneath the journal, lay a sealed military envelope. Across the front, in faded black ink, were 7 words that stopped my heart. To be delivered only after my death. The signature underneath wasn't Richard's. It wasn't Thomas's. It belonged to someone none of us expected. Peter Grant, the only soldier everyone believed had disappeared forever. No one moved. The church had become completely silent. I stared at the faded signature. Peter Grant, the same Peter Daniel had said disappeared after the war. I looked up. You told me. No one ever saw him again. Daniel nodded slowly. That's what everyone believed. But Richard, he never stopped looking. My hands trembled as I carefully opened the military envelope. Inside was a single handwritten letter, folded with incredible care. The paper had darkened with age, yet every word remained perfectly clear. Dear Richard, if you're reading this, then I have already lived longer than I ever expected. First, forgive me. I broke our promise, not because I wanted to, because I believed. It was the only way to protect all of you. I looked at Daniel. He closed his eyes, almost as if he already knew what came next. The letter continued. The government declared me missing. I chose not to correct them. Someone had to disappear. Someone had to carry the truth. If I returned home, too many questions would have been asked. Question. That would have destroyed innocent families. My heartbeat quickened. Peter hadn't vanished. He had hidden himself for decades. Richard, I know you'll try to find me. Please don't. The greatest gift you can give me is allowing the world to believe I'm gone. Take care of Daniel. Take care of Margaret. Take care of Thomas's memory. And most importantly, go home. Live the life Thomas gave you. I suddenly remembered. Those were almost the exact words Grandpa had repeated his entire life. Not just Thomas's words, Peter's as well. Near the bottom of the letter, a small photograph slipped onto the floor. I picked it up. An elderly man, standing alone beside a small wooden cabin. Snow covered the mountains behind him. On the back, only an address, nothing else. No city, no country, just a mountain road and a cabin number. Daniel stared at the photograph. His hands began to shake. I've never seen this. Richard never showed it to me. I turned the picture over again. Tucked behind it was another piece of paper. This one, written by Grandpa. Lucas, if you're holding this photograph, then Peter trusted me enough to leave one final choice. Do not go looking for him, unless your heart tells you he still needs a friend. Not a hero, not a soldier, just a friend. Noah quietly broke the silence. Dad, do you think he's still alive? I looked at the date on Peter's letter. It had been written only 11 years before Grandpa died. If Peter was still living, he would now be 93 years old. It seemed almost impossible, yet something inside me refused to let the story end there. As we carefully placed the letter back into the envelope, something fell from between the pages. A small brass compass, old, scratched, still working perfectly. Engraved around its edge were the same words that had followed our family through every chapter of this journey. Keep your promise. At that moment, I realized the final promise had not yet been fulfilled. And somewhere, if fate had been kind, one last soldier might still be waiting. For 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about the photograph. An old wooden cabin, a mountain road, a brass compass, and one question: was Peter Grant still alive? Every part of me said the answer had to be no, but every promise my grandfather ever kept had started with believing the impossible. 1 week later, Noah and I packed the car again. This journey felt different. There were no maps from Grandpa, no handwritten directions, only the faded photograph and the address scribbled on its back. The mountains were almost 600 miles away. The drive took 2 days. As the roads became narrower, cell phone service disappeared. Tall pine trees surrounded us. Snow still covered parts of the hills, even though spring had already arrived. The silence reminded me of the abandoned train station. Some places seemed to exist outside of time. Late in the afternoon, we finally found the road. A weathered wooden sign read, Grant Ridge. Noah looked at me. Dad, do you think this is really his place? I smiled nervously. I guess we're about to find out. The cabin appeared at the end of a dirt path, exactly like the photograph. Small, simple. Smoke rose gently from the chimney. My heart started racing. Someone was home. I walked slowly toward the front porch. The brass compass rested inside my pocket. For a long moment, I couldn't bring myself to knock. Then, the old wooden door opened by itself. An elderly man stood quietly in the doorway. His white beard reached almost to his chest. His hands were weathered, his eyes sharp despite his age. He looked at me, then at Grandpa's pocket watch. Everything around us fell completely silent. The old man whispered, I know that watch." His voice trembled. "I haven't seen it for almost 70 years." I swallowed hard. "Are you Peter Grant?" He closed his eyes, slowly nodded. "I was, but that man died a long time ago." Noah stepped forward. He carefully placed Thomas's pocket watch beside Grandpa's. Peter stared at both watches. Tears rolled silently down his face. So Richard really kept them together. Peter invited us inside. The cabin was filled with memories: old military books, handmade furniture, a fireplace, and dozens of framed photographs. One picture caught my attention immediately. It showed all 6 young soldiers, standing together, smiling, exactly as they had in the journal. But this photograph was complete. None of the corners were burned. None of the faces were missing. For the first time, I saw the entire family they had become. Peter noticed me staring. "Richard gave me that the day before our final mission. He said, 'No matter what happens tomorrow, one of us must remember all 6. Peter slowly walked to an old bookshelf. From the very top, he removed a small cedar box. It had never been opened. Dust covered the lid. Across the front, written in Grandpa's handwriting, were 6 words: "Return this when we meet again." Peter gently smiled. I waited all these years, believing Richard would come. He looked into my eyes, but instead, he sent the person he trusted most. With trembling hands, he placed the cedar box in front of me. "I think it's finally time." I slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a gold military medal, 6 faded photographs, a folded American flag, and one final sealed envelope. Across the front, in Thomas's handwriting, were words that made my heart stop: "For whoever keeps the last promise." At that moment, I realized everything my grandfather had done for 70 years had been leading to this very box. For a long moment, none of us moved. The cedar box sat quietly on the old wooden table. Inside, the folded American flag, the medal, the photographs, and one final envelope. Thomas's handwriting was unmistakable. "For whoever keeps the last promise." Peter looked at me. "I've never opened it. I couldn't. It wasn't meant for me." I carefully broke the old wax seal. The paper inside was fragile, yet every word remained clear. It began simply: "Dear friend, if this letter has reached you, then time has finally done what none of us could." It brought our story home. I took a deep breath. Thomas continued, "Richard always believed that keeping a promise meant carrying it alone. He was wrong. A promise grows stronger when it is shared. If you are reading this, please tell Richard. He never owed me his life. He only owed the world a life well lived, and he paid that debt every single day." I couldn't stop the tears. Grandpa had spent decades wondering if he had done enough, yet Thomas had forgiven him long before. Peter quietly wiped his eyes. Richard never knew that. He always blamed himself. I nodded. He carried that weight until the day he died. The letter continued. "Daniel, if you're still here, thank you for waiting. Peter, if you're alive, thank you for protecting the truth. Margaret, thank you for giving Richard a reason to smile again." And to the child reading this, whether you're my family or Richard's, remember this: the world doesn't need more heroes. It needs more people who quietly keep their word. Noah looked at me. "Dad, I think he's talking to us." I smiled. "I think he is." At the bottom of the page, a small cloth pouch was attached. Inside were 6 matching brass coins, each engraved with a compass, and the words, "6 brothers, 1 promise." Peter picked one up. "I haven't seen these since we were boys. We each carried one. As long as we had it, we were never alone." I looked around the cabin. 5 coins remained. One space was empty. Peter noticed. He smiled. Richard buried his with your grandfather, so he'd never have to carry the promise alone again. Silence filled the room. Not the silence of sadness, but the silence that comes after finding peace. For the first time, I felt Grandpa wasn't haunted by the past anymore. His promise had finally reached its destination. Before we left, Peter slowly stood. He walked to the front porch. looking across the mountains. I've been hiding here for almost 70 years. I think it's time I went home. I looked at him. Home, he smiled gently, to visit the families, to tell them the truth. As Noah helped Peter into the car, I glanced back at the quiet cabin, the place where one soldier had hidden from the world and where another generation had found him. But as I closed the cedar box, I noticed something hidden beneath the folded flag, a yellowed envelope, smaller than all the others. Across the front, in Grandpa's handwriting, were words I had never expected to read. To my great-grandson, when he is old enough to understand. I slowly picked it up. Noah looked at me, then at the envelope. Neither of us spoke, because somehow, my grandfather had been planning for a generation he would never live to meet. The drive home felt different. No one spoke for miles. Peter sat quietly beside the window, watching the mountains disappear behind us. Every now and then, he would glance at Grandpa's pocket watch, then smile to himself, almost as if an old friend was sitting beside him. Back home, our family welcomed Peter with open arms. My father stood frozen when he saw him. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then Peter reached into his coat. He held out his trembling hand. "I'm Peter Grant. I served with your father." My father's eyes filled with tears. He embraced Peter tightly. The hug lasted almost a minute. No words were needed. That evening, we gathered around the dining table. The cedar box rested in the center. Peter slowly took out the old photographs. He told us stories Grandpa never had. How Richard loved making everyone laugh. How Thomas could play the harmonica. How Daniel always carried extra food. How Michael dreamed of opening a bakery. How Samuel wanted to become a teacher. And how Peter had promised himself he would remember them all. Noah listened without blinking. When Peter finished, he quietly asked, "Did you ever stop missing them?" Peter smiled gently. "No, you don't stop missing people. You simply learn to carry them with love instead of pain." The room fell silent. Even my father lowered his head. The next morning, Peter handed me a folded piece of paper. "I've carried this for nearly 70 years. It belongs to your family now." It was an old list. 6 names, 6 signatures, and beneath them, one sentence: "No matter where life takes us, we will always take care of each other's families." I suddenly realized everything Grandpa had done for Margaret, everything he had done for Daniel, everything he had done for Peter, was simply keeping that promise. A few weeks later, we organized a small reunion, not for soldiers, but for their families, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, people who had never met before, yet were connected by one promise. Peter stood before everyone, holding Thomas's pocket watch. His voice trembled. For 70 years, I thought our story would die with us. He looked around the room. But today, I know it never will. Noah stepped forward. He held up the small brass coin, the one engraved with the compass. "I want to say something." Everyone smiled. The room grew quiet. I never met Grandpa Richard. I never met Thomas. But because of them, I know what kind of man I want to become. Peter wiped away a tear. "So do I." As the reunion came to an end, each family received a copy of Thomas's journal. The photographs were carefully restored. The medals were returned to the soldiers' descendants, and the folded American flag was donated to a local military museum, not as a symbol of war, but as a symbol of friendship, loyalty, and promises that outlive generations. Late that night, I opened the envelope Grandpa had addressed to my great-grandson. Inside, there wasn't a letter, only a blank notebook. On the first page, Grandpa had written just one sentence: "Every generation must write its own promises." I smiled, then handed the notebook to Noah. He looked at me. "What do I write?" I placed Grandpa's pocket watch beside him. "Write about the promises you want your grandchildren to remember one day." Noah nodded. He picked up a pen and wrote his very first sentence, completely unaware that years later, those words would lead our family to one final discovery, hidden where none of us had ever thought to look. 5 years later, life had changed once again. The 2 old pocket watches still rested on my desk. Every morning, before leaving the house, I wound them both, not because they needed me, but because they reminded me that every new day was another chance to keep my word. Peter passed away peacefully that winter. He was 94 years old. Before he left, he asked for only one thing: don't bury me with my medal. Give it to a young person who believes promises still matter. At his funeral, no soldiers marched, no television cameras arrived, only families, friends, neighbors, and children, the people whose lives had been quietly changed by 6 ordinary men. Daniel followed a year later. His final letter arrived a few days after the funeral. Inside, he had written only one sentence: Richard was never my hero. He was my brother. I folded the letter carefully, placed it beside Grandpa's watch, and smiled. At last, all 6 brothers had found peace. One autumn afternoon, Noah came home from college. He was no longer the little boy who had asked innocent questions. He was a young man now, thoughtful, kind, quiet. Just like Grandpa, he walked into my study, picked up the old pocket watch, and smiled. It still ticks. I nodded. So does the promise. Noah reached into his backpack. He placed the notebook Grandpa had left him on the table. It was full. Every page, every line, filled with promises he had tried to keep: helping strangers, volunteering, caring for family, being honest, even when it was difficult. He looked at me and said, "I think Grandpa would be proud." I smiled. I think he already is. That October 18th, our family returned to the old train station. For the first time, 3 generations stood together. My father, me, Noah, and beside us, children from the families of Thomas, Daniel, Michael, Samuel, Peter. Their laughter echoed across the empty platform. A place that had once carried sorrow now carried hope. At exactly 5 o'clock, the old station clock rang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I opened Grandpa's pocket watch. Noah opened Thomas's. Both began ticking together, just as they always had. Then Noah smiled. "Dad, I brought something." He reached into his coat pocket and held up a brand new pocket watch. On the back, he had engraved 6 simple words: "Promises are meant to continue." He handed it to his young daughter, only 8 years old. She looked at it with wonder. "Is this mine?" Noah knelt beside her. "No," he smiled gently. "It's yours to protect." She opened the watch. Inside, there was no key, no hidden compartment, no secret letter. Only one handwritten note, written by Noah himself. It read, "Be the person someone can always count on." She looked up. "What does it mean?" Noah smiled. "It means, one day, you'll understand." As the sun disappeared beyond the tracks, I looked around at every face. 3 generations, 6 families, countless lives connected by one promise. I finally understood. My grandfather hadn't left me a pocket watch. Thomas hadn't left us a letter. Peter hadn't protected a secret. They had all been building something far greater, a legacy that no amount of time could ever erase. People often ask me, was the story true? I always give the same answer. The watches were real. The letters were real. The promise was real. But the most important part isn't whether it happened exactly this way. It's whether it inspires you to keep your own promises. Because one act of kindness, one promise faithfully kept, can echo across generations, long after we're gone.